Welcome to Season 2 of the Play Their Way podcast, where we talk about all things in child-first coaching. I'm your host, Laura Jane Jones, and today's guest is someone whose journey with child advocacy in sports, participant-led approaches and play-based activity all came from his own experiences as a teen in Lewisham in East London. Rashan McDonald from StreetGames UK, welcome to the pod.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
We're delighted to have you here. And that intro I've given is probably a bit mysterious for the listener, but I didn't want to give away too much before we got started. So before we dive into your work today, I'd love to hear about your journey in your own words, from the start and the TNG Youth and Community Centre.
What a place, honestly. I feel like that was a place that we really, from when I was younger, we had good youth workers around us that were able to find the right, funding and partnerships to enable this space for us to be like, look, we've got X amount to build a youth club, like millions of them, telling a young person you've got millions to build a youth club. You're like, what am I going to do with that? And they're like, oh, you guys choose, which I thought was a really great concept, because then that allowed us to have that advocacy leadership role in building up a space for us to all enjoy, but we know best for what everybody in the community wants. So I feel like we had that space to do that and really build it from the ground up. I remember one of their favourite lines was like, you get to choose everything down to the cups in the place, which I thought was amazing. Like, you don't get an opportunity as a young person to manage a space with lots of money behind it. So yeah, I think it was a great piece of work to really identify a sense of belonging in the community, as well as building our own skill sets to prepare us for when we get older in this space and community.
When I've read about TNG online, it sounds like something you'd see on a kind of pre-teen kids TV program. This group of young people and youths who are empowered to build the centre that they want to be a part of. And I think I read that you were like project manager or something like that, age 13 years old, which doesn't seem real, but I can only imagine the tools that gave you at that age that you've taken into adulthood now. Do you think that was your kind of like basis of who you are today? I'd
say so. It's still on my CV now when I apply for jobs. I think, it goes to show that it gave us a space to show that we are committed to our community and we want to make a difference where we live, and by creating a space for young people to do that, which was really nice. And we got to go do research and understand about what would be great to have in that space. So we had like a climbing wall is in there, space for cooking, like a proper industrial kitchen, but as well as like a recording studio. So it was literally a range of activities. And then, you have to have your Muga. Like, it's always part of it in a youth club. I've always been quite sporty. So then it opened up other doors and opportunities for me. So Millwall Community Scheme, they deliver like community kicks programs and stuff. I was part of that, and then started doing a leadership role there. And then they found out, oh, you're doing the stuff with TNG, like, let's bring them together. So then that's me starting to get the concept of collaborating and finding those, building stakeholders in a space for like that asset-based community development, which I thought was amazing. And I think from there, it just inspired me to continue working within that field. So like, I had a full circle moment. My previous job before coming to StreetGames, I worked for Palace for Life Foundation, delivering kicks. So I was now managing the kick sessions rather than being a leader in the space. So then now I do that to other young people. But then I bring all those skills and skill sets through the years that I've started doing it from to now. So now it's like a plethora of different things and skills I've kind of attributed and now putting it into my own community.
So tell me about StreetGames UK, where you work now and what your role is there.
Yeah, so StreetGames UK is a national charity focused within England and Wales. What we do, we kind of use the power of sport with everything that we do. We build a concept of doorstep sport. I guess I'll go in a bit more detail later. But with that doorstep sports concept, we use that, and we have 12 ingredients behind it to support we call them locally trusted organisations, LTOs for short, and support them to kind of expand their sport services, whether it be what we have as our core offer, understanding what the needs are within each community and supporting that with our skill sets and knowledge and expertise, even down to that youth voice element, which I think is a massive piece that has shaped me into the person I am today. And now I get that opportunity to deliver it back in the same spaces, but I cover London and southeast of England. So now it's amazing kind of getting that opportunity to dip my toes into those underrepresented areas not just Lucian, you know what I mean? Like expanding it out now, and how can I support these other areas that are going through similar situations?
You talk about youth voice there. I think what's really interesting is when we look at TNG and your journey through that community centre and sport and building that place, it's not a case that as 13, 14, 15-year-olds you were given balance sheets and access to bank cards and the building materials to put that together. But there were adults around you who gave you a voice and gave you the place to set the agenda. How important were they on your journey?
Well, they were like our advocates, and I feel that was massive. And I feel like having those advocates, you really build that trust with the young people and the adults, really. And it's nice because then you start to see like how you build something up, really. Like it's not just one person be like, I want to build a youth club, and it happens. It's everybody gets on board. You've got your people that are like, I can't remember the name of them now. It's really bad of me. Architects, RCKA they were, and they really supported us in, you know, what we said wanted to be in the youth club. They'll bring it to fruition through their drawings and, you know, display and stuff. And then we have the youth workers that are supporting us. We're going into City Hall and speaking next to these head of CYPs and stuff like that, understanding what we need to do to make a difference in that community and in that youth club, which was quite nice. So it really helped me to understand that collaborative approach from early.
A lot of the guests that we have on, when they talk about children's self-advocacy and young people self-advocating, it's been learned through their coaching journey. For you, because you were tooled with being a self-advocate as a young person, how much has it been a case of it coming naturally to you as a coach? Do you think that you've always had that child-first approach when you've done the KICS programs and stuff like that? Has it just been the natural process for you because of the way that you started out?
I believe so. And I feel like it's enabled me to be able to facilitate a space for young people to speak up and tell me exactly what they want. So like I know a lot of these locally trusted organisations we work with, we try to help get them to advocate that kind of way of delivering per se, where it's you kind of find out what the young people want, what attributes are more designed to get them to keep coming and keep, you know, getting involved in the play at the end of the day, which is really nice. And like I guess it's a nice example to build that whole full circle approach again. Is you pull out those leaders, what do you guys want in that space, and you go from there. I guess for myself an example would be when I was kind of like a senior coordinator helping to deliver these aspects, is I pulled out a youth action group. What do you guys want in this area? How do you want this football to be delivered? A lot of the time it's just like we just want to have competitions, but not competitions like, oh yeah, you could bring your friends and you'll play together against other people. It's you get there, you get mixed into groups and you get involved because it's meeting other people you've never met before in the community, but at the same time you feel safer now because you know more people in the community. I remember I was in a meeting and somebody said like one of the most powerful things is you know, when you walk past, you're in your community walking home, minding your own business, you see a group of people and they see you and you might get a bit scared because it's London. But then at the time it's like you get closer, you realise that person, and somebody in the group goes, oh, he's all right, mate. I play football with him. Oh, he's a baller. Don't worry about him. Like, you know what I mean? And that's a sense of community safety. It makes that person who's walking down the street be like, like gives them a sigh of relief because you don't know what's around in the community.
Something you've mentioned there is safe spaces, and that doesn't necessarily mean a physical space, does it? When we're talking about self spaces for children to self-advocate, that just means opening up a conversation. So in practice, how do you approach that when you go into a setting?
Safe space is, I feel like it's firstly enabling the young people to bring their friends, create that social setting, and that social setting then gets them to speak up more, makes them feel more confident, builds their self-efficacy in whatever they're doing in that area and in that environment, whether it be sports or, leadership pieces and youth voice, social action, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like once you bring those stuff together and then you have your like coaches, but these coaches you could also say have expertise of a youth worker, has an expertise of coaching as well. And I feel like those all embed quite well together to create that safe space, because it's like they know physical, mental, social demands of young people and how to facilitate that space so that the young people can make the most out of it.
How much more important do you think it is for children from deprived areas and minority backgrounds to be able to find these spaces?
It's massive. I think it's massive because one of the only spaces outside of school where they are able to really develop themselves in the community, build their essential skills, and create the next generation of leaders that will really contribute to whatever they want to do in life. A lot of them will have that passion in sports, which I'm always for, but like others don't. But it's, let's build them with those essential skill sets and empower them so that they can make the most out of their space. I think, especially at StreetGames, they do that well. I know they developed a concept with University of Birmingham, and it was called like empowering coaching. I done part of it when I was at Palace for Life, so I was familiar with it. But it's a great concept to have the right coaches to empower spaces for children to be like, I can do this. Do you know what I mean? Build their confidence to make a difference.
How uniquely placed is sport as a space for these children? Because obviously we can try and create safe spaces, both physical and fundamental areas, that conversations. But is sport a safer place because perhaps it's a distraction from the fact that we are actually getting children to self-advocate? They don't realise they're doing it, but actually we're tooling them up in a way that perhaps is sometimes unconscious. Yeah,
it is a bit unconscious. I feel like it's just enabling to make sure that space provided in the environment is in the best interest of those young people taking part. And you've got those right coaches in that space. You've got, you know, organisations like StreetGames that will have the right workforce development plans and kind of strategies to ensure that those coaches have all the tools and skill sets to enable those young people and make them want to come back and make them feel like, yeah, this is a place for me, that sense of belonging.
These all feel like quite lofty things we're talking about, leadership, agenda setting, but at the heart of all of this is sports participation. And the thing that keeps kids coming back more often than not is play. So where did that fit in for you growing up?
I feel like it's just a massive gateway in play. As I was growing up, I've always loved sports, got involved in all types, even from primary, secondary school. It's either a community football or other sports. And then in secondary school, you get a bit more opportunities in playing for basketball teams and that team, and you're doing your after school sessions and competitions and bits like that. I feel like those are all so key to provide that space of play that young people can really shine in those moments, but then also provide that space to support them whenever they come up with things or facilitate to make sure that they go in the right way.
I'm quite interested, as somebody who's come through from such a young age as a coach through the Kicks program with Millwall and stuff like that, is it difficult to manage play and still keep your authority when you're a young coach in those settings?
I guess there can be times, but it's setting the precedent from early. I'd say setting that precedent from early, yeah, it is a safe space for you, but there are boundaries. Yeah. And it's facilitating that space so that those boundaries are reminded. Yeah, I feel like that's quite key. I guess my kind of philosophy in that space when I was younger was, for me, I'd like never mention my age. I would just be like, look, I'm just trying to do this, take that leadership approach. Yeah. And they respect you for being that leader, for stepping up and doing that rather than like how old you are and stuff like that. Yeah.
What does play look like in sessions for you? Is it something that you use as a carrot for the end of a session, or is it something that you weave throughout?
I feel like it should just be weaved throughout. I feel like it helps to provide that inspiration for them to flourish in whichever way they want. Having those, that kind of play, open base kind of perspective, finding out what they want, allows them to, flourish again, as I said. I think also it's really nice having play to really, like, what did I put it down? I put down play equals therapeutic. Yeah. And I feel like that's a big thing for me, because like I play sports like 3-4 times a week, mainly football, but I feel like in those spaces, my favorite session that I go to, I have competitions and stuff, is that Monday night session with my mates where I can just play. Do you know what I mean? Enjoy sport for what it is, but then also have those moments where, you know, one of your mates doesn't do the best thing and you pick them up and then they go and score and you see the change and the real passion come out of them and confidence building, that self-efficacy piece.
As an adult sports participant, does it make you realise even more how important play is? Because we do lose it. I know that earlier guests that we've had on Series 1 talked about the fact that we don't play enough as adults. So as a young coach, is that something that you are very keen to maintain throughout and always in your sessions?
Definitely. I feel like play is so important, and it provides that space, again, to really flourish. but it's also just, it's the feel good factor you get even after doing it. Do you know what I mean? And it's so many factors that it contributes, but you know, you can always wrap it up as that physical, social, mental perspective of it. And then like the coaches in that space as well, or you have your facilitators, activators, if they are, you know, trained or coached up right, they can then provide a space where it's comfortable for people to speak. Are they mental health first aid qualified? Can they do that kind of space and use that algae method if needed? Or can they, you know, think about the physical demands or the benefits that they'll get from it and remind the people? Because some people forget about that. They're like, oh, I love sport, love just getting involved. It's like, yeah, but, you know, you taking part in this helps to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's massive. And I feel like those are simple factors that keeps people wanting to come back into play.
When we talk about young people from diverse backgrounds and perhaps backgrounds where they've not been given the same amount of access, why is play so important to them?
It's massive because it gives them a space to learn a lot, learn things that they won't have in their communities, provide opportunities that they won't usually have in the communities. Like I think an example is at StreetGames we have our inspiration campaign, which is amazing. It's provided young people a space and access to go to matches, to go to see games. And I think that's a massive piece because they'll go there and be like, oh, I've never had this opportunity before. And I love to hear that from young people in the sense of we've provided that new opportunity for them and they really like it. And that's going to keep them hooked into getting involved in playing in sport and then thinking, what else can I do to help contribute to this and really help other people? And it's really nice, you know what I mean? Like that whole full circle approach again. I think a nice example we have at the moment, we have one of our colleagues, Ree, she's done amazing with building this doorstep sport advisory group, and they come and speak and they developed a young people manifesto relating to what we call doorstep sport, which I thought was amazing. And then also I got the opportunity a few weeks ago to go to the United versus Coventry game. The FA Community Club gave us tickets and we brought some young people there. And I was like, this is the perfect space to be like, guys, we're going to be young advisors and we're going to create an event for the Euros 2024. So yeah, watch this space that's coming. Those young people really enjoyed the day and it's like, oh, I've never been in the community box before, never had box seat tickets, never had a 3-course meal while watching a game, that kind of stuff. And it's lovely. Like I think those bits will always enable those young people to keep getting involved.
What would those opportunities have done for you at that age?
Enlightened me to keep going. Always. And I feel like that is a space where young people can really see like the difference that makes, the atmosphere of sport. Everybody coming in with the passion for either their, you know, the team that they come in to represent or just the game in general. People just go for the love of the game or for the social side as well, which I think is always very key and nice. So it's like taking those social attributes and now picking that out from where they are and putting it into their community. Yeah. And that builds a lot more opportunities for play and spaces for young people to enjoy sport.
Part of StreetGames' remit is the establishment of spaces for children to play, create, lead. Why is it so important with setting up specific places, actual physical ones for this?
Places are important. I feel like, you know, now 2024, a lot with Sport England as well, is that play space development that we're focusing on. And I think that's always quite like key to enable, to identify what the pillars are in the community that will really contribute to developing more of those sporting opportunities and spaces for young people to enjoy sport. I feel like at StreetGames, we've done that well with our girls research, so just building up women and girls in leadership, but then also taking part in sport. We've got a massive one going on in East London at the moment. One of my colleagues, Lindsay, has done amazing in enabling that space. We gain a collective of organisations that can really deliver more sport, and we bring the funding down with it to really be like, okay, now go deliver more, get more young people, young women involved. And then we have pieces with the inspiration campaign where it's like, oh, we've got tickets for them to go and enjoy a game. They're like, I want to be that person, or I want to take those bits I've seen from there and bring it back to my community. So it's always massive in that space with that kind of places and spaces.
Going back to taking kids to see sport, I'm really intrigued by that because I'm so obsessed with the see it, be it concept. In women's sport, we know that that's really important. How important do you think self-advocacy is a part of that? Because as much as we can tell kids, look, that's someone who looks like you or comes from the same background as you, and you can go and do that too, how important do you think it is for them to feel like they can be heard, that they want to have that same journey, do you think?
Is that relation to that person, I think, is a massive thing. Because, I always love to see a story of a person becoming a sports star, coming from humble beginnings, because that inspires everybody else that was in that space to do that as well. And I always like that. And it's always a nice kind of way to get other young people inspired to get more involved in sport. And it's just how sport can really be a vehicle to enable that kind of advocacy space for them to speak up for what they want in the name of sport, or in the name of what they want in their community, which is always massive. I know for us, it's like we want to be the people besides the people at StreetGames. But like, I know them seeing that with these sports stars, they'll start to gather that kind of same concept. But then when it's like self-actualization or realization, but they'll do it themselves just because we facilitated that space for them to go and see it.
When you talk about facilitating those spaces, what's the danger of us not having those provisions of places that children can go and play?
Well, they don't have a space to be themselves. Do you know what I mean? To be themselves and have a social setting with people like-minded in those communities, because that's the space that they can realize other stuff, like, oh my gosh, there's another young person going through something similar as me. I'm not just here by myself. And then that's the whole kind of mental health kind of perspective as well. It makes them feel more relaxed, and they're not in it alone. And all of a sudden they've built a support group with the power of sport. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's always quite massive. It's always good to see, when all the young people are coming into the session, they're all giving each other high fives and stuff. How you been? Long time. You know what I mean? But then they feel comfortable to be involved in that space. And I always like that. Are
you ever surprised to see how something as simple as play can open these doors and opportunities and moments for children and young people?
Yeah, I feel like it always surprised me, because it's like you don't know when will be that clicking moment for young people. For some, it will be that first session. Others, it will be when they get to the third session and they know that there's the tickets opportunity or other opportunities coming up. They're like, oh no, I need to be involved. If I want to get these opportunities, I need to stay here and get involved and enjoy this space.
If we talk about your personal journey and where you started out, how different does sport and sports provision for young people look today compared to when you were a 13, 14-year-old starting your journey?
I guess, when I was younger, I didn't know much of the wide range of organisations that are provided in this space. As you get older, if you're in this space, your network builds. And I think by getting involved in this space from early, it's enabled me to do that, to pick up good networks, the right people, and other kind of you could say disruptors, or people that are really the advocates for this play and this sports and those safe spaces for young people. And then you just build a collective of those people and really lead together to make a change. And it's that whole sport for good element, do you know what I mean? Which we're always all for about. And then it starts to like relate to those, UN rights, and you out of nowhere that you don't even think about is that kind of leisure play culture with, I think it was number 31. But then I feel like doorstep sport's really good at kind of enabling that space for young people to enjoy the leisure, the play, and the culture of their community in those spaces. I think that's quite key. And then, as I was mentioning, the advisory groups and stuff like that, they enable a space with like the 12 and 13 rights where they're respected, they're hearing their say, and they get to express their views as well, which I always think is quite key. So then you get to start to see the bigger picture it creates from the power of sport.
Rash, as a coach, as a change maker, as an advocate, what would you like youth sport to look like in 15 years' time?
I want it to be everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that whole, you want it to be literally by your doorstep. Do you know what I mean? Everywhere I go. I know I go back to my mum's house sometimes and I see that little pitch across the road, and I was like, I used to be there. I want more people to enjoy that space. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like by doing that everywhere, other young people will have that same thought as well. So I want to change that space there because I know how much it affected my life, and then it creates that whole full circle approach again.
What's been the one most important thing that's got you to where you are through this journey in sport, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is it belief of others? Is it self-advocacy? Is it just enjoyment of play?
I feel like it's all the above. I feel like it's all the above, just getting those all together, because they all contribute to that, safer, more successful, more kind of more opportunities as well, to build in that space. And it's a lovely space, you know what I mean? No one's going to say anything bad about it, because it's spaces that really empower everybody. And I think that's so key in this society, that you need that to enable the future. To enable the future for the young people in those spaces, but then for yourself as well. And then you look back and you're like, oh wow, I didn't realise whole butterfly effect, that one step of whole TNG youth club, and now working at StreetGames. It's crazy.
As someone who could be referred to as an architect of a lot of the programs that we're looking at today, in a kind of metaphorical sense, you've also been an actual architect through TNG Youth Centre. It's been multi-award winning. Its successes are heralded and much talked about. But is there one thing, if you could go back, that you might change, or one thing, if you could go back, that you would add on to that award-winning, amazing space to make it an even better provision, that if somebody is doing something similar today, they can learn from?
I say get more people involved. That's my big thing. The more people you involve, and the more people that are with that same agenda to make that difference, it will spread to the masses more, like efficiently and quickly and effectively. I think, getting everybody on board would be massive. I just feel like I did have a good amount of people in the community that I would try and bring along. But I was like, really and truly, Rash, you could find more. You know what I mean? Like pushing yourself more to make a difference for more other people as well. So that whole full circle again,
Rash, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a great guest. And thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed. Be sure to leave us a review and share this with someone else who you think might enjoy it too. Check out our website, www.playtheirway.org, and follow Play Their Way on social media at Play Their Way on TikTok, X and LinkedIn, and at Play Their Way UK on Facebook and Instagram.